Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Volleyball Insights. Heute mein Kollege mit mir im Studio Matthias Pack. Ich bin Martin
Hallo.
Blessel und heute Special Guest. Wir haben Cody Kessel hier.
Hallo, alle.
Hey man, hey man.
Hi Cody. You're the author of the book 11 Ways to Get an Edge. In this book you also cite some German authors like Hesse and Frankl. Did you read that in German original? So can we do this podcast in German?
Wir können auf Deutsch reden, aber glaube am Ende ich kann besser erklären alles auf Englisch.
Hey,
Aber
das
wir
ist
können
ziemlich gut
am
aber
Anfang
schon.
probieren auf Deutsch, wenn du willst. Ich habe nichts ein bisschen Hesse gelesen
Ja,
in Deutsch, aber ja, es geht eigentlich ein bisschen langsam mit die Lesen auf Deutsch. Aber ich
aber
muss das, ich muss.
Ja,
cool.
sehr gut.
Ziemlich gut.
Ja, dann auf Deutsch, ne? Weiter. Dann machen wir den Podcast auf Deutsch. Just kidding. We do it
Nee,
in
ist okay, ist kein Problem. Wir können das probieren. Ich glaube, meine Antwort wird ein bisschen einfacher sein. Aber
Du kannst je nach Thema wechseln.
ja, beides. Wenn ich die Wörter fehlen oder die Wortschatz fehlen, dann vielleicht für die Horror vielleicht ist auch nicht so schön. Wenn ich, oh ne, here I am back in English. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ich weiß
All
nicht.
right. Don't worry.
Let's go English.
Let's go English. That's fine for us too.
Perfect.
Cody, you're an author, but you're also first and foremost a volleyball player. Can you introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners and viewers?
Yes, sure. And I actually like how you said that. My focus and my day-to-day focus is being the best professional player I can be, both for Team USA recently, and this is now my 8th season playing in the volleyball Erste Bundesliga. I did my first year after I graduated university in 2015 in Switzerland. I played for TV Schönenwert, and then I was able to continue my career for 3 years in SVG Lüneburg under Stefan Hübner and company. And then I switched to the Deutsche Meister Berlin Recycling Volleys, and this is my 4th season with them. So, the book has been a side project that has slowly been written over 2 or 3 years. I've had a blog and a newsletter for many years. That's a side hobby. I enjoy reading and writing and engaging with all kinds of different sports books, different everything, books and knowledge from around the world. So yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. Appreciate it.
Cool to have you. Yeah, you already said you really do read a lot. How did that start for you? Have you always been a reader, even from a young age?
Yes, I was lucky. My dad always would go to the flea market and grab a big box of books, and my sister and I would just go through them when we were younger. There was a reading program at my school where every book that you finished, you wrote it down, and if you read 100 books, you got a prize. This is the smaller books when we were younger, but I think we both maxed out eventually you get a lunch with the principals or something as you go up if you read 3,000 books or something. So we've
Wow.
just always been readers, and so luckily that habit stuck with me through my university days, and it's yeah, thanks to my dad for getting that habit with my sister.
Cool.
We also read that you are reading in college. You read before the games to calm down your mind, to silence your mind. Are you still doing that at STC Berlin?
Yes, I'm not doing that this season, but I have used that before big games where I felt my anxiety. I think a lot of times the first step of the mental game is awareness, and so you develop that as you go in your career. But when I'm aware that I'm particularly anxious or maybe nervous before a match, I then have a bunch of strategies that I'm able to reach to, 10 or 12 different ways that I can kind of calm that. And one of them for a while was reading a book beforehand, to kind of calm down that overthinking side of me that could get in the way as you're competing in the moment.
That's pretty cool, and all this mental game and mental preparation. This is also a big part of your book that you wrote. And this also seems to be a really big part in your preparation, no? So
Certainly, yeah. And I think that seems to also be what a lot of people are interested in more these days, is kind of understanding the inner side of, and it's different for everybody, but I wanted to give viewers, or I wanted to give readers a look into how that works for my brain and my head. I think it also takes a lot of vulnerability. I think there's not a lot of athletes that are saying, hey, here's some of the inner workings of my mind and my journey as I've gone on to compete. So I wanted to address that, because when you ask athletes or coaches, hey, what % of the game is mental?
yeah,
Almost all of them are going to say more than 50%, 70%, 80%. And then you go, okay, how much are you? Most coaches and teams are totally fine. Leave that up to the individual player to kind of figure out. But I just wanted to share my journey with that and what has helped me. And there are, yeah, I'll stop there. But there are, my team could write 12 different books on their different mental approaches. And that when we all come together, I think that makes it really special. So some guys would say, wow, you're really overthinking all of this, Cody. Maybe you didn't need to write a whole book. You just go play some volleyball. But this is what's worked for me. So
Cool. Yeah, your book has 11 chapters. And also the title is 11 Ways to Get an Edge. So is it 11 ways, like everyone should pick one way, or is it like are there more milestones you should go from chapter 1?
oh yeah, I don't even know if I just wanted to share my main big lessons and takeaways for me. So I look at, wow, you kind of go year by year, and then you look back and you see, gosh, I've been playing professionally for 8 going on 9 years now, and what have I learned from this? What can I really take away? Of course, the experiences have been amazing worldwide, and all these huge big moments where you perform great or you perform not so great. And I just wanted to also for myself have these,
So it
have
was
it written down and processed.
So it have been your 11 ways you wanted to share, right?
Yeah, I think the top lessons maybe is the best way. The things that most serve my game maybe, and by sharing that, hopefully can help others.
cool.
Okay, so now my question. You have to choose one chapter. You can just share one. Which one would you choose?
I think for volleyball, it's the first one, the love and the positive energy chapter versus some other different energies that can take us in different directions.
So joy and love.
This is very interesting, because I've just been at like a youth selection for 4 days, and people would so if talents get scouted, usually we look for high jump, physicality, and technique, and like play how to play the game, and this love for the game. I don't know if it's valued enough by coaches. What's your take on this?
I would agree. You can, there's both sides of it. Clearly, you have some amazing players on my teams or teams that I've played on that maybe hate volleyball secretly.
Really, they are awesome.
I think of Andre Agassi's Open.
Yes, okay. He's the only one that comes to my mind.
He secretly had a hate for the game, and I think a lot of players have very mixed feelings towards it. So I think the ones that don't like it, we don't hear about because they quit and we lose them. And we lose them for volleyball, and they leave the sport for whatever reason. So volleyball in so many ways sits in between amateur and professional. And I just wanted to share for my journey to be able to make it to where I made it. I had to get through a lot of those half amateur summers and years, and without the love, without just loving it and caring about it enough, and all the reasons why I don't make it here, and I'm not on this podcast talking to you guys, for sure not.
For me, this was one of the most interesting part of your book, like how you persistent you were in all the things you did. I think you tried out 5 times for United States volleyball team, no? And finally made it. And I think this is a huge step, not to say, okay, I'm not good enough, but to keep that growth mindset. So, okay, I try again. I let's go. I go again. So this was
Thank you.
very interesting for me to read, and yeah, good moment for me when I read that.
I want to hop in on that matter too. Like, I think when I watched the games from your team, then I could see the joy and love for the sport when you stepped on the volleyball court. I think that is really a big factor watching you playing volleyball, is you can see that it's not just written down, you can see it if you're on the court, and that's I think you inspire a lot of young volleyball players with your
It means
style.
so much. Thank you very much. That means a lot.
That's nice.
No, it does.
Cool. Now you talk a lot about you wanted to share the lessons you've learned. So I mean, you're still only 31 today. This is not a old age for a sports people. So you can still go 10 more years.
Yeah.
But do you have any thoughts like you want to also go into a coaching career afterwards to share these lessons further, not only in a book, but yeah, and you would step into some like footprints. It's family wise, no?
Certainly, yeah. I'm not sure. You know, I think the thing I tell people a lot is, I have I'm sticking with plan A until I make a needed new plan.
Yeah,
I've seen so many friends who they make a plan B and you end up with plan B if you make a plan B. So I'm sticking with plan A, and that's becoming the best player I can be and seeing how good I can get and how long I can play. And then when it's time, I will make a new plan A, if that makes sense. So I actually don't like to give energy or extra thought. It drives my sister and my mom and other people who worry about me crazy that I don't have a backup plan. But I think, you know, it's kind of this, not that you burn the boats, but there is no, it's got to be this, and I'm going to run with it and give it everything I got. So.
no, that sounds cool, pretty cool, because that means you're really going all in on what you want to pursue, and yeah, again shows how much you pursued your goals. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
pretty
no,
cool.
I think coaching. On the other hand, the coaching does come with my family and with growing up, how I grew up. So I wouldn't. I don't think that would be a difficult thing to do later, but
Yeah.
it's not something I've given big thought into.
Yeah. To give listeners a bit of a background who did not yet read your book, so your father is John Kessel and is a household name more or less in US volleyball, and you also had some other people in your life when you grew up with Lang Ping. I think she's your, I don't know your how is it called in English, but
Yeah,
there are
a
some
godmother,
yes, that's
honorary title. Yeah,
yeah.
close family friend. You know, I was rereading my book the other day, and I'm realizing that if you read the first few pages, you go, oh, this guy isn't very relatable. He just comes from his volleyball royalty. But I just had such a unique upbringing that I wanted to say, hey, look, even though I came from this type of family and had this background and pedigree, it wasn't this clear path. And
Yeah.
I think my journey gets misunderstood in a lot of ways, because even though I was from that, I didn't start, I had exposure to it, but I didn't start playing club volleyball at a high level till I was 17, really, and focusing on volleyball till I was 18 only. So yeah, it was just a funny mix, and yeah.
Cool. Matthias.
Yeah, for me, one question would be really interesting one, and I think for everyone who's listening to the podcast, what was your biggest struggle until now, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh,
Or one of the biggest?
one of the, yeah. I think I think I'm just going to say consistency. You know, I think with volleyball, the thing I said recently, a lot of players and teams can make a few Champions League level volleyball plays in a match. I think you find that around the world. But to get to the highest levels, it's okay, fighting for that 94th percent instead of 92nd percent of how great you can be at a skill, for example. And those last percentages make the difference in matches and also can be the most difficult. And I think that you see that across all sports and all skills. So I'll just say consistency in performance and skills and in showing up year after year after year. And in what we do, I think that's one of the challenges. To compete at the highest and elite level is maintaining that, and that involves lifestyle and coaching and discipline. And so I wouldn't say, I think that's just the biggest challenge that a lot of people don't realize or don't think about is, yeah, you do it one time, okay, well, our lives as professionals is we're gonna have to do it 30 times really well in a season, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. And also, for example, 9 seasons straight, then not just for one season,
Right.
for 9 seasons straight.
Right.
It's also a big factor to prepare for more than 9-10 seasons.
Certainly.
I think, yeah.
When we come to these 92% or getting 94%, I would also like to come back to your book, because in 2 of the chapters you write a lot about the advantages of game-like practice,
Yes.
which I, as a coach, fully commit to this concept. On the other hand, in chapter 11, then you say you can't escape the monotonous consistency of skill training and repetitions, which is more or less at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And so what do you think? How does the mix need to be? Because obviously you need both. Although some say, okay, this is much better than the other.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you calling me out on that. And this is such a great, thing about getting a book out, is you get to re-examine your ideas more in depth. With the monotonous skill consistency, I mean, I would hope that you're monotonously training, seeing serves from a very good server and not just a serving gun, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that there's a big difference there. And I think random training, or it's not just throw out the balls and play 6-on-6.
Yeah.
I think how can we make sure that I'm working on, is there a coaching situation where I can get this monotonous skill training of attacking against a triple block and a defense, right? So that's kind of more what I meant.
Yeah.
I really, if those who read the book or are listening to this podcast, a huge edge, I think, for me, and reason I was able to get to the levels I have, even though I started at 17, was that I understood this from a young age and had this motor learning science and background in my head from my dad, and I kind of knew what drills to pay more attention to, or which maybe not worry about not worry about my technique a lot of times, because I put it in the book, you guys, I still don't like hitting down balls.
Yeah.
Standing on the ground and hitting a ball, I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
It's maybe because I haven't done it a lot, but it just is not, it's actually not a volleyball skill. And a lot of coaches will go, that actually teaches you wrist snap, it teaches you this, it teaches you that. And it's just not specific enough, because it's not the reality of volleyball attacking. And so, of course, coaches will argue about it. Oh, it brings touch, it brings feel, it brings these other things. But my career, my experience says otherwise. So.
Yeah, makes total sense. If you would compare the clubs that you have been at, would you say they more or less follow this philosophy that you like? And did you choose these clubs because you find the practice environment that you just described is a good fit for you?
Yeah, I think as part of it, for sure. Going over to Switzerland, I knew Nicholas Busser, my coach. It was his first year as a head coach. It was challenging for him, but I know that he was very much in the school of Carl McGowan. I think he had some other struggles. He had no struggles with volleyball technique or execution or practice planning at all. I think, and he might admit this too, that he struggled more with the personal side of there's so much that goes into being a head coach besides just knowing the science of volleyball. And I think he struggled with the other stuff. And then Stefan Hubner, of course, more and more has been open to that. And I think that's a huge underlying reason why people maybe don't realize Lunenburg gets so good every year. And so certainly we think very similarly to that. And of course, Stefan is able to bring his own techniques and understanding to that side of things. And yeah, and then in Berlin, it's also heavy gameplay. But I think you start to, like I also put in the book, it doesn't mean staying closed off to other drills or other ways of learning. So,
Yeah.
you know, when Cedric has a French defense drill for us, I'm all in, you know, and I'm going to get everything I can out of that. And there's a reason the French are out defending, out receiving sometimes, and out serving, you know, so there's always stuff to take, even though you might have your, hey, here's how I see the game. There's so many ways to get to the end point of being a championship team. And that's an amazing thing in Berlin, for example, the diversity that we bring. I mean, we have guys from, I don't know, 9 different countries, it feels like, playing every year. And that can be such a strength of a team when you bring all those diverse opinions and together.
This is also something cool that you just said, is like, what can I get out of this drill? So not to give the coach all the responsibility, but to say, okay, now this is the drill or the game that my coach set up, but what can I take from it? So this also shows how you take responsibility for your own practice process. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, cool.
I also like that a lot. Good quote.
Yep.
That's maybe a big lesson for younger players.
For sure.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't have to be the right drill. You can always learn. But that's also what you are writing in the book, that you're a big learner, and that's one big part of you.
I think that is one of my edges, or my strengths.
Cool. Matthias?
We have one more. A little thought. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah,
no, it's okay.
Over here.
I also like for the learning. You're a growth learner, and you write in the book, I don't know when it is, at the end maybe, that there are good mistakes and bad mistakes. But are there really good and bad mistakes, or are there just
no, not necessarily?
Are there bad mistakes? That's my main question. Because if you learn from it, can it be a bad mistake if you're learning from it?
Certainly not. And we could there was, you know, my dad's philosophy on these good and bad mistakes is more of a constraints-led approach that can be used to help a team. For example, if you take 2 clone teams of youth players, and one team spends all their time missing all their serves out by a little bit instead of into the net by a little bit, you know, not only does the server, are they always clearing the net, but the passer gets a read on the ball that is just out by a little bit. That's really valuable. This is just take the one example. But then I also had a Polish coach in university that said, Cody, when you miss, you need to miss hard into the tape, because he wanted me to drive the ball. And you have different, you know, ways of, okay, what is a good mistake versus a bad mistake? But those are more if you zoom out and are looking at the whole team, and you want to give guidance, you know, hey, with tossing a serve, if you're a right-handed striker, you want to miss with the toss a little bit to the right, as opposed to the left, where you're missing power here. So those are just kind of guidelines as you are using this, you know, more game-like random play, discovering your own technique. How do we help everyone digging up and off the net versus over the net, for example? It's like everyone can kind of think about it for a few seconds and agree, one is maybe better than the other. And then how do we go from positive to perfection without just always expecting perfection? So a free ball coming over the net, right? We don't want to put it 1 foot over. If you have a standard deviation, a standard mean of where we're putting the ball, we want to aim a little bit further off so that we keep the ball and we keep the advantage, and not freak out if we don't make it perfect, and be okay with it 1 foot off, because out of 100 free balls, we want to put 0 over the net. So we then have to make the target, you know, a foot off, and everyone has to be okay with a free ball being 1 foot off. Of course, we want it perfect. But if you're 12 years old, 12 to 14 years old, 15 years old, these guidelines can really help you keep the rally going and enjoy the sport more, and not. I just a lot of those mental frameworks have helped me, so I wanted to share them as well.
Cool.
Makes sense again. Everything is so well thought out.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah,
Do you
I have
still
I have
question?
one more question to the book itself and the way it is distributed. I think
Yeah.
I was one of the super early adopters, so it was $11 for me plus some
Great,
country
yeah.
tax or something. What's the current price?
21 US, and then there's a cool this Gumroad has a nice pricing power parity, so I think it automatically calculates global purchasing power.
Okay.
So I think it's 20% less in Germany, and if someone wants to get it in India or Cambodia, it's 60-70% less
Okay.
based on the US price of $21.
Cool.
So it's an ebook, it's only 100 pages or something. I wanted to make it accessible, and I
Yeah.
wanted people to be able to, especially as a first book, people, before people be able to, I'd rather that people read it than not. So
Yeah, cool. But is it?
and I'm not a published author or anything until now, so I just wanted to. I think a lot of ebooks are maybe sitting around that price point anyway. But
Yeah.
for a smaller niche thing of volleyball, I probably could have gone a little bit more. But when I made good mistakes versus bad mistakes, I wanted to. I thought was make it a little bit less, but that's the capitalist side of things. I'm not worried so much about. So
Yeah, sure. But do I understand that correctly that it's also dynamic, like the price changes with the amount of books already sold?
yes, I made it dynamic in that way. I thought that made sense.
And what will be will there be a cap, or will it be if you
I
sell
think there will be a
2,000,
cap, certainly. Yeah,
then we have to buy it for
I will cap it.
$990 and you think,
I
yeah,
think
one
the
more.
cap-
Ja, an dieser Stelle haben wir Cody Kessel noch eine Frage gestellt, allerdings gab es bei der Aufnahme technische Probleme. Jetzt stelle ich sie Matthias Back. Die Frage lautete, was sind die 3 Lieblingsbücher des Cody Kessel?
Ja, als Nummer 1 kommt Harry Potter, Nummer 2 von Viktor Frankl, trotzdem Ja zum Leben sagen, und Nummer 3 The Inner Game of Tennis.
Ja, wer sich jetzt fragt, ob es zu diesen Büchern vielleicht auch schon Infomaterial gibt, ja, zu Inner Game of Tennis haben wir auch schon eine Folge gemacht, eine unserer ersten. Wer das nachhören möchte, können wir empfehlen.
Auf Harry Potter müsste man vermutlich länger warten.
Da müssten wir erst eine Weile lesen.
Ja.
Ja, wir haben uns dann noch tränenreich von Cody verabschiedet. Es hat ihm Spaß gemacht, es hat uns Spaß gemacht. Wir hoffen, euch hat es auch Spaß gemacht. Wir verabschieden uns bis zum nächsten Mal bei Volleyball Insights. Macht es gut.
Ciao.